Can I answer the question about PIN?
I've asked you a question. How many
You've
people
asked
work?
me a question, but you don't
How
want
many
the
people
answer.
work
I'm not
for the
gonna answer your
National
questions the way you
Cryptocurrency
want.
Enforcement Team? You won't answer how many?
I'll answer PIN.
You.
PIN will not be
you know
weaponized.
what? Actually, you know what?
What's
Madam
funny
Attorney
about
General,
this?
I'll say to the chairman.
What's funny about
Chairman,
this?
you know what the answer is, and I think I
What's
understand
funny
why the
about
Attorney General
this?
does not want to answer the question, because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
no one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in your district.
In any event,
who
I would
murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by the
I've been
witness?
very generous with allowing.
What started as a routine hearing quickly spiraled into chaos after Representative Joe Neguse cornered Attorney General Pam Bondi with a series of explosive questions she seemed unwilling to answer. And as the confrontation intensified, the entire room turned tense.
6 days ago, you posted online, quote, "If you come for law enforcement, the Trump administration will come for you," end quote. I want to show you just a brief video. It's about 30 seconds, and I'll ask you a couple questions about it.
You guys are disgusting, man. Hey, you guys are disgusting. I'm former law enforcement. You're disgusting. You are the Nazi. You are the Gestapo. You can't see it because you're chasing your pension, right? Your pension, your retirement, right? That's what runs your life, your retirement.
The sad thing is they're not even going to get their pension because it's going to be worthless.
And shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. Yeah. Fuck that. Yeah.
Attorney General Bondi, that man works for you now, right?
Who was that, Congressman?
The man in that video, the one who was in the police-worn body cam footage, the one allegedly yelling, "Kill him," at police officers on January 6th, his name is Jared Wise.
He does work for us.
He works for you at the Department of Justice.
He does.
This is an individual whom a federal grand jury indicted for 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors related to his participation in the attack on January 6th. One of those charges was forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, and interfering with police with the intent to commit another felony. This is who you choose as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice. Someone on video yelling, "Kill him," at police officers? Right?
I believe he was pardoned by President Trump.
Oh, he was pardoned. You're right. You're right. Pardoned by President Trump for his offense. Pardoned for yelling, "Kill him," at police officers. And yet you expect hardworking police officers across the country to believe that you take law enforcement seriously. You could imagine the reaction of so many folks across the country hearing the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States refuse to even condemn what that individual whom you've now hired did. But in any event, let's talk a little bit about some of the other divisions within the Department of Justice and what's happened over the last year. You're familiar with the Public Integrity section of the DOJ's Criminal Division. I think it's referred to as PIN. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know which presidential administration under which the PIN was first created?
I can tell you what administration that the weaponization was ended under.
I'll reclaim my time. This wasn't a trick question.
You don't get to
Madam Attorney
reclaim
General.
your time.
Madam Attorney General.
Because I don't like it.
Mr. Chairman, will you explain to the witness that he does reclaim his time?
Because I don't answer a question to your
Mr.
satisfaction?
Chairman.
Madam Attorney General, the time belongs to the gentleman from Colorado.
The president under which PIN was created was Gerald Ford. It was created after Watergate. I'm not asking a question, Madam Attorney General. The administration under which it was created was Gerald Ford. When you first started as the Attorney General of the United States, there were 35 people working in that office. There are now 2 people working in that office because you have gutted it. How many people work for the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team in the Criminal Division today?
Can I answer the question about PIN?
I've asked you a question. How many
You've
people
asked
work?
me a question, but you don't
How
want
many
the
people
answer.
work
I'm not
for the
gonna answer your
National
questions the way you
Cryptocurrency
want.
Enforcement Team? You won't answer how many
I'll
people?
answer PIN.
You.
PIN will not be
you know what?
weaponized.
You know what?
What's
Madam
funny
Attorney
about
General,
this?
I'll say to the chairman.
What's funny about this?
Chairman, you know what the answer is? and I think I
What's
understand
funny
why the
about
Attorney General
this?
does not want to answer the question, because you eliminated the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team last year. So I understand why you don't want to tell the American people who works there.
Yeah, I
no one
understand
works
why
there
you don't want to
anymore,
talk about
Madam
Mohammed
Attorney
Solomon
General.
in
So,
your district.
in any event,
who
I would just-
murdered people.
Mr. Chairman, will you stop the clock so his time is not wasted by
I've
the
been
witness?
very generous with allowing extra time when we have these little disputes.
I understand.
You got the time, Mr. Neguse.
I might as well ask the chairman these questions.
I'd be happy
because
to
what
answer some of your questions.
What's profound, the questions I've
Profound?
asked,
The crime in
questions
your
I've
district.
asked, Mr. Chairman, are not trick questions. They're not gotcha questions. They're actually basic questions about how the Department of Justice functions and the unwillingness of this Attorney General to answer them in good faith. When a member of Congress asks how many people work at the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team and the Attorney General refuses to answer it, it is not a coincidence. It's because she eliminated the team. Why? Because her boss, the President of the United States, is making money hand over fist, $1.4 billion over the course of the last year through cryptocurrency holdings. I think what is happening at the Department of Justice is a disgrace, Mr. Chairman, and I would urge you to gain control of this hearing. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.
Yeah. I would ask the gentleman, does he agree with the standing up of the Deputy Attorney General for dealing with fraud? That's something that's happened in this administration, first time. You talked about Penn. That happened with this Justice Department.
We're talking about this committee.
Mr. Chairman, had you answered the question, had the Attorney General answered the question in that way, perhaps this hearing would have some modicum of resembling something that has typically been fairly conventional, an oversight hearing of the Department of Justice.
The gentleman's
That is
time
not
has expired. The gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized for 5 minutes.
Attorney General Bondi, I want to express my gratitude to the President.
Representative Joe Neguse delivered one of the most confrontational moments of the hearing after aggressively pressing Attorney General Pam Bondi over the Department of Justice, January 6 defendants, and what he described as growing corruption inside the DOJ. And as the exchange escalated, the hearing quickly turned chaotic. The confrontation began after Neguse referenced a post from Bondi warning that anyone who comes for law enforcement would face consequences from the Trump administration. But Neguse immediately challenged that message by introducing footage tied to a January 6 defendant named Jared Wise, who allegedly shouted, "Kill him," at police officers during the Capitol riot before later being pardoned by President Trump. Neguse then drove the point directly at Bondi, accusing the DOJ of hypocrisy for employing someone connected to that incident while simultaneously claiming to stand for law enforcement. And this is where the hearing started to unravel. Rather than directly condemning the conduct being discussed, Bondi repeatedly pivoted back to the fact that the individual had been pardoned by President Trump. That response appeared to frustrate Neguse even more because, from his perspective, the issue was no longer about the pardon itself, it was about whether the nation's top law enforcement official was willing to clearly denounce violent rhetoric aimed at police officers. As the questioning continued, Neguse shifted toward the internal structure of the DOJ, specifically targeting what he described as the dismantling of critical enforcement divisions under Bondi's leadership. One of the most revealing moments came when Neguse asked simple operational questions about staffing levels within the DOJ's Public Integrity Section and the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team. Instead of directly answering, Bondi repeatedly attempted to redirect the conversation toward claims about weaponization inside the department. That back and forth became the central tension of the hearing. Neguse argued that Bondi's refusal to provide direct answers exposed a larger pattern inside the DOJ, one where accountability was being avoided while key enforcement units were quietly weakened or eliminated. At one point, the hearing became so contentious that Neguse openly appealed to the committee chairman to regain control of the room, arguing that basic oversight questions were not being answered in good faith. Politically, the exchange was significant for several reasons. First, it highlighted the growing divide over how the DOJ is being run under the Trump administration and whether law enforcement standards are being applied consistently. Critics argue that the department has become increasingly politicized, while supporters of the administration continue to claim the DOJ is correcting years of institutional bias. Second, the hearing showed how congressional oversight itself is becoming increasingly combative and theatrical. Instead of calm policy discussions, these hearings are now turning into viral political confrontations designed for online audiences and media clips. But perhaps the biggest issue raised during the exchange was transparency. Neguse repeatedly emphasized that his questions were basic oversight questions. How many people work in certain divisions, why certain enforcement teams were eliminated, and whether the DOJ was prioritizing political loyalty over institutional accountability. And when clear answers failed to come, the tension in the room only intensified. Whether viewers agree with Neguse or Bondi, one thing became very clear during this hearing: the battle over the future of the Department of Justice is no longer happening quietly behind closed doors. It's happening in full public view. And moments like this are becoming defining political flashpoints. Subscribe to Capitol Breakdown HQ for more congressional hearing breakdowns and political analysis.